Canadians, Americans, members of the Commonwealth, and patriots the world over. Welcome to the show that tells you what they won't, exposing the fake news, conspiracies, and corruption within institutions that govern our lives, and red-pilling the nations one fact at a time. It's Weathering the Storm with your host, Canada's Red Pill, Billy Joyce. Good day, folks, and welcome to another show. Today I am going to talk about how Canada is becoming more and more of a police state, a totalitarian nanny state. It's not good, folks. Now, before I get into the details, I just want to remind everyone what our Canadian Charter of Rights, our Constitution Act of 1982, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I just want to take everyone to the section on legal rights. And right here, number 8. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. It's pretty straightforward. Any person charged with an offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to law in a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. Now, I know a lot of people may say, when I go through what I'm about to go through, they're going to say, well, you're still going to have to go to court, and you're still going to have to do this. Well, listen to the whole video, and then you tell me if, in some way, the Canadian government is now infringing on our rights in this manner. And I mean, lately, they've been infringing on our rights. If we go through the different parts of our Constitution, and you know, freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. When you consider that lately all the alternative right-leaning media channels on social media are being throttled, or not even throttled, I guess, shadow banned, being demonetized. So I guess freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication, is only legit for those who are left-leaning, because that's what seems to be going on. As far as freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of association, it seems that nowadays you have to get permits and stuff to have peaceful assemblies, otherwise you get harassed by the police. Now, as far as our legal rights go, I read on Spencer Fernando, and Spencer Fernando is an independent journalist. He's got his own website. His stuff is not featured often in mainstream media. I believe he's had articles in Maclean's magazine. And I just went to check this morning because I like using some of his articles for the French radio show that I do every morning. Oftentimes I'll translate some of his material and incorporate it into my morning show. So when I saw this, Canadians outraged over Trudeau government's disturbing impaired driving law giving authorities power to demand breathalyzers in our own homes after driving. When I saw that headline, I was like, no, that can't be, that's not possible. And then it says a serious infringement on the freedom and liberties of the Canadian people. You got that right. So then I'm like, is this for real? So I'm going through here. Changes to Canada's impaired driving laws passed by the Trudeau Liberals are causing massive outrage throughout the country. I bet. What I was wondering is, why the hell did it take me until today to find this out? Apparently this happened in December. But I guess it just reflects what the mainstream media does. Because, for example, here in Atlantic Canada, most people, the most watched news in Atlantic Canada would be CTV or even CBC, but what we get in Nova Scotia would be CBC Nova Scotia or CTV Nova Scotia. The national news, where things like this are discussed, is more on CBC News Network. And on CBC News Network, even if they ran a story like this, they just run with the facts. You'd never get a pundit. It would be rare to get a pundit on CBC that's going to lambaste the Trudeau government for anything, including eating away at our rights and freedoms. Now, so far, it seems I got through this what I've gotten through so far on this article. It says the Trudeau Liberals have changed Section 253 of the Criminal Code. Now, police are allowed to demand breath samples from drivers for any reason without needing a reasonable suspicion that someone has been drinking. So you're driving down the street. I don't know, you may drop something. There may be something that falls on the floor. There may be, I have no idea. Maybe your child talks to you. You turn around. There are no vehicles coming. But you turn around and you swerve to the other side of the road. And the cop so happens to see you. Maybe he's got a speed trap set up. He pulls you over. And automatically he's allowed to put you on breathalyzer. Or for that matter, he can pull over anyone he wants. Put you on the breathalyzer. Now, Spencer Fernando says, here's part of a Global News article describing the disturbing changes. So I went to look at the Global News article. And I'm going to read it to you, because it's outrageous. It may sound unbelievable, but Canada's revised laws on impaired driving could see police demand breath samples from people in bars, restaurants, or even at home. And if you say no, you could be arrested, face a criminal record, ordered to pay a fine, and subjected to a driving suspension. You could be in violation of the impaired driving laws even 2 hours after you've been driving. Now the onus is on drivers to prove they weren't impaired when they were on the road. It's ridiculous. It's basically criminalizing you having a drink at your kitchen table. Paul Doroshenko, a Vancouver criminal defense lawyer who specializes in impaired driving cases, told Global News. If you start to drink after you get home, the police show up at your door, they can arrest you, detain you, take you back to the police station, and you can be convicted because your blood alcohol concentration was over 80 milligrams per 100 milliliters of blood in the 2 hours after you drove. Wrap your heads around that, folks. Wrap your head around that. So you go to the liquor store. What we call them liquor stores. Maybe you want to call them the beer store. You pick up a dozen beer, or 24 beer, or a flat of beer, whatever it is you may call it. Come back home to watch the hockey game. You're an hour and a half into the hockey game. You've drank 6 beers. The cops show up at your door. And because someone reported you, I saw Billy Joyce driving kind of erratically on the road about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. I think he may have been drinking. So the cop follows up, comes to my door, knocks on the door and says, hey, Billy, you been drinking? Yeah, I had a few beer. Well, we're going to have to give you the breathalyzer because we got reports that you were driving erratically, so you got to blow in the breathalyzer. I'm not blowing in the breathalyzer. I wasn't drinking when I was driving. If I refuse to blow in the breathalyzer, apparently, he can arrest me. Arrest me for drinking and driving. Haul me off in handcuffs. Based only on someone saw me driving erratically an hour and a half ago. So come to my house and if you're a pot smoker, they can come to your house and demand a blood sample. Do you know what that sounds like? It sounds like the police state. Global News further says, the public has completely missed this one, said Joseph Neuberger, a Toronto criminal defense lawyer. You think? And the reason we missed it is because our mainstream media outlets, they don't really talk about that stuff. They prefer to talk about Trump manufacturing a crisis, because those were the exact words that every single mainstream media station was using in North America after President Trump addressed the world from the Oval Office. Even though you can go consult the video I did, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, you can go consult that video and everything President Trump said can be backed up with verifiable articles, facts. They're all factual. But in Canada, they change a law like this, and I'm willing to bet it might have shown up on CBC News Network. It may have been a bleep on the radar, but I know I watch the news almost every night, and I don't recall seeing this in the news. The article continues. Husbands or wives in the course of separations could drop the dime on their partner, Engel said, describing the potential for the law's abuse by those calling police out of spite, for example. In an instance where someone was drinking in a public place, Doroshenko said, it would be hard for someone to prove they weren't impaired when they were driving earlier. If the police come and find you at the restaurant, they can take you out of the restaurant despite the fact that you've been drinking at the restaurant. Maybe you weren't going to drive anyway, he said, arguing the rules are excessive. Now, I've seen this happen many times where you may drive to a restaurant or a bar and you don't intend on drinking and you run into a friend and you start talking and the friend suggests that maybe you drink. Now, I live in a small town, so in a situation like that, I could call a bunch of people. In the city, you can always call a taxi. So then you decide, I'm going to have a few drinks. So you park the vehicle and you decide you're not going anywhere. The cop shows up for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe someone called and reported that I swerved and missed the yellow line. Or like this says, maybe my girlfriend's pissed off at me. Or maybe my neighbor's pissed off at me. Or maybe a former colleague at work is pissed off at me. Or maybe someone that I've done something to in the past is pissed off with me. They decide to call the cops. Say, yeah, pretty sure Billy Joyce is drinking and driving there. He's at the local bar. I got there earlier, wasn't drinking when I drove there, decided to have a few drinks. So the cops come in. Well, we got to report you were drinking and driving. You drinking? Then I got to prove that I wasn't drinking when I got there, when I was actually in my vehicle. So again, I ask. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. Is this unreasonable search or seizure? Is this being presumed innocent until proven guilty according to law in a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal? And of course, here they'll probably say, well, you're still going to go to court and you're still going to have the public hearing, and chances are you won't be found guilty. Well, that depends on the judge. It depends what kind of instruction, and if you go by judge and jury, it depends what kind of instructions the judge gives to the jury. Because I've witnessed judges give instructions to the jury, and at the end of it, the jury's more confused. I know I was more confused. I would have been like, man, I'm glad I'm not part of that jury, because according to what the judge just said, I wouldn't have a clue how to find the defendant. So then it's in the court's hands. And all this time you're innocent, but you got to go prove that you're innocent now. It doesn't make sense, folks. The government just signed the Global Compact on Migration without consulting Canadians. They signed into the Paris Accord without consulting Canadians. They imposed things like carbon tax without consulting Canadians. And now they're allowed to come into our home and demand breathalyzer tests based on random reports or random phone calls from God knows who. Man, Canadians, well, who cares? That Billy Joyce is crazy. Don't watch that YouTube channel. That guy's nuts. Nuts, all right. I'm done now. If you enjoyed this video, you may want to take a look at other videos you find on this page. Don't forget, if you like it, push the subscribe button under this video, and feel free to like and share with all your friends. Follow me on Twitter by following the link on this page. If you want to interact, feel free to post a comment, but please, no obscenities. Thanks for watching. Billy Joyce signing off and reminding you that I'm here to help you weather the storm.